Beautiful. We are back, and it's time for us to go through the newspapers. And thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, we are going to be just going through the newspapers. That is the Daily Nation, the Standard, the Business Daily, even as we continue to pray for our nation and get to be on the know about what is happening.
Yep. Let's start with the Daily Nation. Yes. A lot is being reported today. Let's start with the front page. That is the headline.
Yeah.
Grade 9 crisis. That is the headline. Head teachers cite delays by the government to release funds for the project. So there's this concern that with less than a month to go, many schools are ill prepared to admit grade 9 learners on the 6th of January, while construction of classrooms to accommodate the pioneer learners under the competency-based curriculum is ongoing in some schools. The situation remains dire in many institutions, and it's a special report that is being covered on page 4 and 5. Teachers Union and head teachers of comprehensive schools have called on the government to employ more teachers for junior school, which continues to face an acute shortage of tutors since 2023. And so you can read that story. Shortage of classes, shortage of teachers threatens grade 9 transition. And with less than a month, because schools reopen on the 6th of January, this indeed is a cause for alarm. And I hope and we pray that all the concerned parties will ensure that the same is addressed, so that we do not have a gap for those who did grade 8 and now they need to transition to grade 9.
Okay.
Mulot mobile fraud cartel training recruits at a fee. So what began as sporadic incidents of mobile phone SIM swapping fraud in Mulot town, which straddles Bomet and Narrow counties, has evolved into an elaborate multi-million shilling cybercrime operation where fraudsters are trained at a fee. So the fraud involves scammers stealing subscribers' registration details to illegally access victims' mobile wallets to steal cash and take loans. So read that story on page 2. Hooray to the end of 8-year reign of shame. It's on page 3. And this one is a special report as well, and has a special place for me because they are talking about football in Kenya. And the elections were being held for the governing federation. The elections were on Saturday. And we now have a new federation in place. Nick Mwendwa, who was running together with Doris Petra. Doris Petra was the candidate, and Nick Mwendwa, who has been the boss for 8 years, was the running mate. But good riddance is that, and many will agree, they were defeated. So we have a new sheriff in town when it comes to football management. Hussein Mohammed of Extreme Sports is now the FKF president, and he will be deputized by former Harambee Stars midfielder and Champions League winner McDonald Mariga.
Oh, wow.
Why Kindiki is charting his own political path. That is on page 8. And they are saying, since assuming office on the 1st of November, he has accompanied the president to only one public event. His predecessor, Gachagua, was visible at almost all presidential functions. But Kindiki is charting his own political path away from Ruto's. You can read that story on page number 8. There are some very interesting stories I saw, and I think we need to mention them. Yes. Page 10. High Court upholds, because, you know, we keep saying we need, how do we pray for the nation as believers? This is one. High Court upholds rights of atheists. So the rights of atheists should be protected under the Constitution unless their actions violate the rights of others or are forbidden by law. That's according to a ruling that was made by the High Court Judge Lawrence Mugambi, who said that it would be unconstitutional to impose a belief on any person if that person does not endorse, as it amounts to the theocratic tyranny which Constitution does not support. So that is one that also, as believers, we need to keep a keen eye on. Then I see Academy had banned, there is another story on page 11. Court allows Muslims to pray in school. Judge says that a policy introduced by the school in 2019 indirectly discriminated against the learners on the basis of their faith. That is on page page 11. And so you can read those stories inside the Daily Nation. Quickly, we go to the business section. Credit freeze hits building construction sector hard. Loans flow to manufacturing has also suffered, slumping by 11.6% last October. Garissa Turkana top in pending bills jump. So you can read that. International news, Syrian rebels topple Assad. His whereabouts unknown. Rebel leaders seen as keen to ensure a smooth transition to avoid what befell Iraq after Saddam's ousted. And Ghana's former president Mahama wins election. That is, former Ghanaian president John Dramani Mahama staged a political comeback, winning the West African nation's presidential election after his rival Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia conceded defeat. That was over the weekend. And quickly, sports pages, how Hussein beat the odds to clinch top football seat. So full entry for newly elected Kenyan football administrators. Arsenal frustrated in draw at stubborn Fulham. It ended 1-1. Then I saw yesterday also Chelsea. They emerged 4-3 victorious over Tottenham Hotspur in that London derby. And 6-try Kenya Sevens wind up 7th in Cape Town. They beat Great Britain 32-17 in playoff in second tournament of the season's series. That is in the nation.
So beautiful.
Yep.
And coming down to the Standard, the top story here is Raila's path to Addis paved with intrigues. And I see Raila Odinga, whose bid to become alternative, to become Kenya's president failed, may soon have a better alternative and finally bestride the whole of Africa. But there is a mountain to climb. That's a story covered on pages 6 and also 7. Still on the top page, we have a top story here covered on page 11, talking about Kenya set for talks with top IMF official. We also have still on the top page here, something covered is taking the plunge, and this is on book serialization, how I took an ex-civil service boss and won. If Geoffrey Karethe, former head of civil service in Kenyatta and Moi government, was a big tree, Martha Karua was the small axe that fell him. A towering figure not just in Kirinyaga but also nationally. Karethe had, upon retiring from the civil service, joined politics, was elected MP Gishugu in 1988 and appointed assistant minister for tourism. A story covered on pages 4 and also 5. Still on the top page, I see Kenya Kwanza, 500 billion diaspora bet. In a bid to diversify revenue, the government seeks to tap into the vast financial resources of the global diaspora with a groundbreaking diaspora bond aimed at raising 500 billion shillings in the first quarter of 2025. And coming down to page 2, I see here why the Gates Foundation is talking controversy. So his philanthropy organization was granted immunity status by Kenya, and critics are saying the foundation could use the privilege to avoid scrutiny of its activities. Page 3 is covering schools claim they were unfairly targeted in boarding closure order. So some schools have vehemently denied any violations or disregard of the guidelines, and the ministry maintains the closure is necessary to ensure the safety of students. Look at that story on page 3. And moving on is, of course, the story of Raila's bid for AU Commission top seat gaining steam in stiff contest. More on the same. William Ruto here is saying our East African region, which is home to more than 500 million people, rightly considers this moment to be its turn to offer leadership on the basis of the principle of inter-regional rotation. That's a story covered on page 7 and 6. And looking at page 10, economists urge caution on 500 billion shillings bond, that is the diaspora bond, and the funding initiative is aimed at financing critical infrastructure projects, but economists here have urged caution to be applied even with that, and that's a story covered on page 10. Moving on to page 16, I see a story here. Turkana pastoralists struggle for survival as climate change bites, and this is for us to keep praying even for those who are struggling in various marginalized areas. And I see between 2021 to 2023, Kenya faced its worst drought in 40 years. So 200,000 pastoralists in Turkana County have abandoned their way of life is in to try fishing. And we hope that all is going to be well with them and that the Lord will continue to provide for all their needs. The Health and Science pullout today is talking about family silent war on respiratory papillomas. So with multiple surgeries and struggles for proper treatment, hope and resilience fuel children's fight for better care, support, and also awareness. This is indeed something that we don't hear much about, but is real, and families are struggling on this particular area. So you can look at that because it continues to say that at KNH, a rare condition called recurrent respiratory papillomatosis quietly shapes the lives of children and families. And with multiple surgeries and struggles for proper treatment, hope and resilience fuel their fight for better care, support, and also awareness. And coming down to the sports pages today, Arsenal chalk on Fulham. I see Arsenal had a late goal disallowed as they missed a chance to close the gap. Coming down to page 31, what did I get myself into? Manchester United problems deepen as Man City stumble again. So Amorim replaced sacked Eric Ten Hag at Old Trafford last month. Ruben Amorim, who is the Manchester United manager, adding that this is a long journey. We are improving in some aspects. We have to win games to help us improve the team. Mipira ya wazungu
hiyo kweli.
That's it for the Standard.
All right, quickly the Business Daily. Banks widen profit margin, ignore CBK rate cut signals. Average lending rate CBR difference hits 31-month high. Regulator warns costly loans will hurt the economy. And then I see eyes on IRA as 23 insurers breach minimum capital position. Kenya's intra-Africa trade in falls as travel barriers persist. So they're saying the value of trade between Kenya and its peers in Africa has dropped for the first time in 4 years, amid reports that the country has become more difficult to visit. And the building and construction sector has taken the largest hit from the plunge in private sector credit growth due to high interest rates and stringent loan terms. That is also a story you can read inside the Business Daily. And a quote here by Amrik Hare: there's need for a comprehensive approach to improving financial inclusion and health in Kenya. That is what is being covered in the Business Daily, and you can grab your favorite copy, get to see what's being reported, get to be aware of what's happening in our nation, in the different counties. And if, of course, as we keep saying, as believers, we also get to know how do we pray, because at times we are like, how do we pray for this nation? Yes, when you read the papers and you get to see what's happening in the different counties, the regions, then you get to know how do you pray for the nation.
Beautiful. And right about now, it's time for us to have a look at the video of the day.